Hello and welcome to Erbil. Welcome to this exclusive interview of Massoud Barzani, the president of the Kurdish regional government of Iraq. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Hello and welcome to Erbil.
Mr. President, you announced 2 weeks ago that a referendum on the independence of Kurdistan would be held on September the 25th. This is the first time a date has been set. Lots of people here, abroad, are wondering why now. The situation is still very volatile in the region. The war against Daesh is not finished. Obviously, there are troubles in Iraq, in the Middle East. Why did you choose to do this now?
Well, my answer to that question is rather, why not now? We are already very delayed. This has been delayed multiple times. If we wait and wait to solve all of the issues beforehand, and if we wait until the region is stabilized, we're probably going to be waiting a long time. And we probably would never actually be able to set a date for this referendum. Furthermore, this is for the good of our people and also for the stability of the region.
Is there a possible decision to postpone it or to cancel it, or is September the 25th the set date, there is no turning back?
This is a decision that is now irreversible. This decision has been made, and we decided that the 25th of September would be the date.
Obviously, you've seen lots of negative reactions from neighbors, such as Turkey and Iran, from allies, such as the United States, the European Union. Essentially, they're saying it's a mistake, it's not the right moment, please don't do this. I imagine you expected such reactions, but nevertheless, those are countries that have an impact on the situation here. What is your response to their criticism of your decision?
Well, personally, I have not heard any country, any European country, or the United States for that matter, speak out against the referendum. They have expressed concern regarding the fallout that may come from the referendum, though. The same is true of Iran and Turkey. They have not spoken out against the referendum. My answer to you would be the following. This is a natural right. Is it a crime for a people to decide to use a democratic and peaceful process to be able to decide on their own destiny? At the end of the day, the referendum will be a way to counteract potential disasters in the region in the future. Some people are saying that there will be issues because of the referendum, but I am saying that the referendum is actually a solution. Many people talk about freedom, human rights, people's rights. I speak to the international community and say, why not apply these principles to the Kurdish people?
You mentioned that there would be a catastrophe if this doesn't happen. What exactly do you mean by a catastrophe? There have been a number of catastrophes happening in the region. What do you have in mind exactly? Can you be more precise?
I do not know when this kind of thing may occur. However, the current situation is not sustainable between the central government and the regional government. We must do anything we can to avoid bloodshed, and if war were to occur, it would be a deadly war.
You're talking a bloody war. Let me ask you again, to be more precise if possible. Are you fearing that there will be a war between your forces, the Peshmerga, and the Iraqi army, or are you having in mind maybe some militias, especially the Shia militia, the Hashd al-Shabi, that have been present, including not far from here. Is this what you have in mind? Can you be more precise, if you don't mind?
I cannot say this clearer. Relations with Mr. Abadi are excellent. We are coordinating with the central government. For the battle for Mosul, we elaborated plans together with Baghdad and with the international coalition. We had concerns at the beginning. We were worried that there may be friction between the Peshmerga forces and the Iraqi forces. But luckily, there was no such confrontation. In fact, the coordination between the forces was excellent, between the Peshmergas and between the Iraqi forces. But that doesn't mean that this situation will continue as is. I won't be around forever, Mr. Abadi won't be around forever, and there are other issues out there. They will need to be dealt with. So we are fearful of the future. Furthermore, there is a mindset in Baghdad which refuses any partnership. When you don't accept partnership, you open the door to other problems. This could lead to other wars, perhaps border wars, or any other sort of spark. This is why we wanted to leverage the current positive circumstances to hold this referendum. I don't know who this confrontation could be between, but I am sure that the current situation will not continue. We weren't able to be good partners. Let us at least try to be good neighbours. We had a constitution. It was a good constitution. We want this constitution to actually be applied. Our question is, why are you not applying this constitution since 2005? I'm worried about confrontation. I don't know who it would be between, but we want to avoid any kind of confrontation.
I just want to go back to the international reactions quickly to the referendum. I understand the US administration asked you to postpone the referendum after the elections in Iraq, which are scheduled for March of next year. Obviously, you did not agree with that request, but can you confirm that this was indeed what the Trump administration wanted you to do?
There have been dissenting opinions expressed on this topic. But on the other hand, we've been able to express our own opinion. Regarding this referendum, we believe we've been waiting 14 years for it. We can't wait anymore.
I want to ask you concretely, so September 25th, the referendum will be held. Obviously, there will not be a declaration of independence afterwards. You've said there would be negotiations with Baghdad. Obviously, given the tensions, it is already raising. Those will be difficult negotiations. Are you setting a time frame, a deadline, saying we're going to negotiate during 6 months, 1 year, and after this, if it doesn't happen, we declare independence? Or are you willing to say we're going to negotiate until we find a solution?
Of course, these negotiations cannot be endless. It'll take the time that it takes so that we can achieve our goals.
One of the most contentious issues with Baghdad is that you announced that this referendum would be held in the so-called disputed areas between Erbil and Baghdad, especially the town of Kirkuk, areas in Sinjar, and other areas. Obviously, you're going to be asking that same question in those areas. Baghdad is not going to accept this easily. Are you going to do this whatever happens, or are you willing to negotiate with them if they tell you this is not Kurdistan, this is a disputed area, you cannot hold a referendum there?
Back in 2005, when we were drawing up the Iraqi constitution, well, back then, the people of Kurdistan voted overwhelmingly in favor of the constitution. There's an article in the constitution which is very well known, as it contains rules on the contested territories in Sinjar, Hanatin, Kirkuk. We want these issues to be solved in a constitutional and legal way. We want to work within the framework of the Constitution to ask a question to the inhabitants of these regions, to let them decide. And the question we've been asking them since 2005 has been, why is the central government not applying this particular article of the Constitution? We accepted this constitution, but we never had any doubts as to the Kurdish nature of these territories. So this is a question we'll be putting to anyone who lives in these contested territories. There can be areas inhabited by Arabs, and we must respect their opinion, their voice as well. If they want to belong to Kurdistan, then we would respect that expressed opinion. If they are against it, then we would also respect their opinion. We do not wish to impose our desires on others, and similarly, we don't want them to impose their desires on us.
But if Baghdad says, no, you cannot organize a referendum in this area, what happens then? I mean, what do you do?
The referendum hasn't happened yet. Why jump to conclusions?
Do you fear they could take some retaliatory measures, like closing the airspace, for instance, or maybe massing some troops near there? Is this something that you're fearing, or that you are not really fearing?
What we want is for all of the issues to be solved in a peaceful way. We want to avoid any kind of threat.
So you're confident that you, or whoever negotiates for Kurdistan, and the Prime Minister in Baghdad can reach a solution whereby Kurdistan will become an independent state in the foreseeable future?
That's certainly our hope. We want to achieve a positive result. This is not something that regards only Abadi as a person. This concerns all of the people living in Kurdistan, all the Iraqis, all of the stakeholders. We want everyone to take a positive approach.
I want to go back to the presence of the Shia militia, Hashd al-Shabi, in the Sinjar region. Some are thinking that they're doing this not so much on behalf of the government in Baghdad, but on behalf of Iran, to have a corridor, quote unquote, along the Syrian border and to be able to intervene there. Is this what your assessment is as well? And what is your reaction to that?
You talk of corridors and passages, but everyone uses these corridors. If the Americans don't say anything, if the coalition doesn't say anything, then our opinion is a moot point.
But do you think this is Iran behind this maneuver?
It seems clear that People's Defense Forces are advised and trained by the Iranians.
Right, and so are you calling the international community to react to this because you fear this might become a big problem, including for you?
We do not want to allow any other force to do this on our territory.
I want to get to Mosul. The battle seems to be nearing its end after months of siege, of destruction. Do you think it's nearly finished? And do you think it will be a turning point, or are you still warning, like you've done repeatedly, that what happens after Mosul has not been carefully planned enough?
A year and a half ago or 2 years ago, while we were starting to prepare for the liberation of Mosul, we were working with the coalition forces and Baghdad, and we had two plans, a military plan, and then we had a post-liberation plan, which aimed to manage the city after liberation and to manage its governance. At the time, everyone wanted to play by both of these plans. But more recently, I feel that the Americans in Baghdad have become less concerned with the non-military plan. They've been putting the non-military plan on the back burner. I brought this up in the past. At the time, I had expressed my misgivings regarding the post-liberation phase. I said that there would be issues at the time, and we are starting to see some of these issues emerge. After the liberation of Mosul against Islamic State fighters, and we are getting closer to that time, there will still be some places where fighting will be fierce. There are lots of victims, but we're getting closer to liberation. We're getting closer to the end of the battle. But that doesn't mean that we'll be putting an end to the so-called Islamic State. The so-called Islamic State may change its face, change its form. It may reappear as a subsequent iteration.
Would you like foreign troops to remain in the area for some time because you fear that since the day after has not been prepared enough, there could be mayhem again in the region? So are you calling on the international community not only to help reconquer Mosul, but stay after?
Back in 2011, I was against the Americans withdrawing from Iraq because the situation was not favorable to such a pullout. Currently, this is my opinion, after the liberation of Mosul, we will need forces on the ground. This will enable to stop any reappearance of organizations similar to the so-called Islamic State. We will also need to address the issues, the roots, which enabled this kind of organization to appear in the first place. All of these root causes have not been addressed currently.
The last issue, I want to go back to the referendum. Some are saying that you're calling this referendum because there are economic issues, but also political deadlock. Here in Kurdistan, your presidential mandate ended 2 years ago. The parliament has not convened for 2 years. Or they're saying you're doing this for political reasons and not for the right reasons. What is your answer?
As you know, people are free. People are free to express themselves. People are free to draw their own conclusions. Everyone is free. And we'll see what this leads us to.
Are you hoping that all main Kurdish parties will support the referendum in the end?
On the 7th of June, all of the major political parties agreed on doing this, apart from two.
Just the last question. You've also announced that there would be presidential and parliamentary elections happening after the referendum. I think the date is November 6th. Do you confirm that those elections will indeed take place? And will you run again for office?
I recently wrote to the High Authority on Elections. There will be presidential elections in November, but regarding the technicalities, it is this committee that will be deciding on exactly how to do them. This will be an important election. I am very aware that my presidential term expired 2 years ago, and at the time I had suggested either that we hold another presidential election or that we appoint someone. The position couldn't remain vacant as war was raging. I went to the advisory board and they suggested that I should stay in power until the next presidential elections. But as to the upcoming presidential elections, I will not be running. I fully respect the laws of my country.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. And thank you for watching this exclusive interview from Erbil in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. Stay tuned for more news here on France 24.